It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, September 6th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this terrific Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, the practical word study, and also Provi in the media. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? And as you can hear from my voice, it is a little bit hoarse. A lot of screaming and a lot of things going on during the soccer tournament over the weekend. Lots to testify about. It was an amazing tournament, and God really showed up in multiple different ways. So I hope you guys really enjoyed your weekend. I'm here at my Airbnb. It's not quite what you'd call, soundproofed, but this is the best we can do right now at this moment. But very, very thankful for all of you guys joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. So I just want to remind everyone to keep liking and commenting, whether it's YouTube or SoundCloud. Leave a comment below. I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. And most importantly, we really want to build a community for English-speaking people around the world where they can kind of talk about the things that they want to talk about, be transparent, and really be able to get ourselves to build a platform for all of us to come together. In a couple days, we also have Q&A Thursday. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead, pop them in the comments below. Or, you can even DM me if you want to. It's whichever one you're more comfortable with, all right? So get your questions ready for this week. It's probably one of the most popular segments we have every single week. So I enjoy it too. And I hope it's something that can really help out a lot of you guys out there also. So today is a very special day. It is a very special day because it's my birthday. Yes, it's my 44th birthday today, and I'm just thankful to God, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity, Son's name, just for really blessing me these last 24 years in this history. And I'm just thankful that I've made it to this point, and now that I'm kind of moving on to a new chapter, and 44 seems like a very, very good number. Right, because it's two digits with the same number makes it very, very easy. 44. So, really, really grateful, thankful to God, and thank you so much for all you guys out there who already gave me early birthday wishes too. So let me talk about this. What is the big thing is the soccer tournament we had yesterday. So let me tell you what happened. Yesterday we won. Okay, so I was playing for Team LA and we won the entire tournament. So everyone's super excited about that. But it was something, there's so many crazy miracles. I'm dead serious. It was so many miracles. Like, I'd say the first miracle for me, being 44, and I wasn't really in shape 2 months ago, but I told you guys I was playing, soccer almost every single day in Canada, and it actually helped. It really, really helped. I won the Golden Boot Award, which means I scored the most goals out of anyone in the whole tournament. So I had 6 goals in 6 games, and the next closest person had like 3, I think. But I was really thankful to God, and you can see it when you practice, right? When you practice and you get yourself, really, really ready for something. The more you prepare, it pays off. I felt more fresh, more ready. I had more endurance, but I was very, very thankful to receive this award. Now, let's get into the actual game. So, on Saturday, we played 4 games, and it was really tiring. We finished with the first seed. So, we won the first seed, okay? And I told you there was a Christian church there, too. They came in second place, and we tied with them, okay? And the only reason we became the first seed is because what did we do? We became the first seed because, what happened? We became the first, because we had more goals than they did. Okay, so Sunday was the semifinal and the finals. Okay, so we played Houston, which is probably the top 3 teams there. We're all in the it was us, the Christian church, and then Houston team, and we played Houston in the semifinals. We were hoping to play New York, but instead we played Houston. Now, remember, we had the Sunday service first, and then we started the games at 3 p.m. So the Sunday service, we know the title is about those who endure to the end will be saved, right? It's about enduring and doing things until the end. Like, that was the key point. Do it until the end. Okay, so we all go to, after we go to the soccer field, we play this game against Houston. First goal of the game, I scored. So I was really, really happy. It's like, I scored a goal. We were up 1-0. And then in the second half, they come back and score a goal. So it was 1-1. And then at the end of regulation time, there was at the end of regulation, it ended at 1-1. So there was like golden goal. So the next goal wins and there's a 10-minute golden goal. So we started playing and playing. It was really competitive and back and forth. Chances here, hitting the post. We almost lost. They hit the post. They shot, hit the post, came back, and what happened was there was like less than a minute left, and one of our players gets injured, and then he gets off, and then he comes back on, and then last second, like, ball gets kicked up, moves in front of the net, and we scored at the very, very end. And we're like, wow, and everyone's going nuts because we won the game on a goal. So the golden goal basically means that whoever scores wins. And we scored and we won the game, and people going nuts, right? So LA, we beat Houston, right? But we know on the other side, it was the Christian team that beat New York. And so they were in the finals already. So we were talking with each other and we're like, hey guys, guess what? This Houston versus LA, this is the Providence Cup final right here, right? Even though it's not the final. And we thought to ourselves, even before the game ended, we're like, it's already 1-1. And we said, you know what? No, we were winning 1-0. And we said, hey, you know what? Let's just make this the Providence Cup. Right, this semifinal between New York and LA, right? Because these are the two top teams, right? So we'll play for the Provi Cup in this game, just in our hearts. But the final is going to be the Christian Church versus a Providence team. So we want to mix the teams so that we can have a united front to beat this Christian team. So it was kind of that pride on the line, like New Testament versus Complete Testament, right? So what happened was we all agreed to it even before the game ended. And what happened was semifinal was going on. It was 1-1. It ends in a tie again. So then we won that game, and then it goes to the finals. So we took 4 players from Houston. So Houston and LA played together. And what happened was Houston and LA plays together. And first goal we score in the first half. So it's 1-0 for us. So it's pretty crazy. And this is how good that team was. They had one player who was a pro. He played in Spain Professional League, second division. Okay, so you have the one that you watch on TV with like Barcelona and Real Madrid and stuff. And there's one league underneath it, the second division. We didn't even know, but one of the players was pro. Straight up pro. We didn't know it, but we knew they were so good. They picked up like 4 extra players came. They were amazing players. So we were kind of like down a bit, right? So not down, but we're just like, oh my gosh, it's going to be really, really hard. And we're playing. We score the first goal. We go nuts. Like, everyone's cheering and stuff like that. It was kind of this huge united thing where everyone's just cheering for Providence to win, right? And then they scored in the second half, and it was 1-1. And they were pressuring us, like shooting here and there. And then the regulation ended. It goes to overtime again, golden goal. Next goal wins, right? And they are putting the pressure on us, shooting, hitting the post. This one time at the I think it was like 2 minutes left, or maybe not even 2 minutes left. Someone shoots it really slow. It moves through 2 players, even past the goalie, and it stops right next to the post. Like, that's how close it was. We're all like, what? And they kicked it out, and we were freaking out like, oh my gosh, what just happened kind of thing, right? And we almost lost that moment. Me and the other player on the other team were both like, what just happened, right? We thought the game was over, but it didn't even go in. And then, the ball moved over to the other side, and one thing led to another. And with 4 seconds left, someone kicks the ball and it hits the opposing player in the hand. So it's a handball inside the box, so it was a penalty kick. So time expires and the only thing left is a penalty kick, and this is to win the game. And it was so crazy because there's one Japanese player, his name is Junpei, and it almost felt like everyone felt inspired that he should take the shot at the same time. And we're like, he's like, no, I don't want to take it. We're like, you should take it. And he was testifying that he doesn't take very many penalty kicks. And he's someone who's not very good at them either. So he was going like, no, I don't want to do it. And then when the team captain came in and told him a second time, what happened was he felt inspired to take it. So it was crazy. It was like last second. And, he puts the ball down and he's just looking at the ball. And then he closes his eyes and starts to pray. And I swear, he prayed for like a couple seconds, but it felt like forever. And it was so silent. You could hear a pin drop. And we're just like waiting. And we're looking like, what's he doing? Just silent, not moving. And even the goalie on the other side turns to him and says, "Hey, Junpei, you okay?" And Junpei's just praying like, "God, please. God, you got to help us," right? And what happens is he gets ready, he steps up to the ball, and then he shoots it. And it's kind of like, what's going to happen? The goalie like kicks out his leg to stop it, and it goes through his legs. And we won the game. It wasn't people going crazy in the crowds. It was just like, ah. And it really felt like this. I'm going to tell you, I felt so, it wasn't even about the trophy. Is we couldn't lose to the former faith. That's what the only thing we're like, come on, guys. This is about Providence pride, right? And when we won that, it was insane. Right? It was insane, that last game. And when we looked at that, we're like, wow. And we were so thankful to God. And here's the thing. Remember what the message is those that do things until the end will be, you have to do things until the end to be successful. And both games that day, the semifinal and the final, the goal was scored in the last minute. Well, the last game, the penalty kick, it was 4 seconds left, right? So when you think about that, how crazy that was, it went exactly according to the message. Everything happened when we went to the very, very end and we scored and won the game. It was crazy. So there's so many things to talk about. When we talked to all the fans and we talked to all the people playing, and everyone was just so happy. Not about the trophies, not about winning anything. It was all about Providence pride. That's it. And it was just so amazing. I told you guys about the weather on Saturday just being crazy awesome. Sunday was even better. It was even it was cloudy. There was a breeze. There's no sun blazing. It was awesome. So there's so many things to talk about. We were very, very grateful and thankful for all the stuff that just everything God did for us. So that I can't even think about another testimony greater. Everyone talked about how great this event was. So super happy about that. So big congratulations to Providence for beating the former faith with a pro player. It was insane. And he was so good too. That team was good. They're all 19, 20-year-olds, and we're all average age is 30-something. But either way, we were just really, really happy and thankful that we were able to do this. Have you guys checked out the new poll? I posted up a new poll. And the question is, who do you relate to the most in the Bible? Very interesting one, right? So I put up a couple of figures for you guys to take a look at. So I put Jonah is someone who's a little bit more defiant. Paul is overzealous. Jacob is manipulative. David is emotional. And Martha is too focused on work, right? So go ahead and check out that poll. See where you stand, which one is more relatable to you, kind of more similar to you. So go check out that poll on the MSD YouTube channel, right? And of course, Espresso Sky, we have a break until September 15th, so we can just kind of take a little rest, and I'll be making some videos over here too. And I hope you guys are really, really enjoying that also, all right? So let's get started with some music from member artists from around the world. And on this awesome Tuesday, we're going to start off with MC One Love from Australia, part of the Rapture Collective. And this song, I love this song. It's The Journey. It is his life from being a non-believer to a Christian and coming into Providence. So there's a great song right there. Then we have J Root from the Pip Music Associates in Korea with Blaze. And last but not least, we have Kuma Chung from Japan with The Greatest Blessing 2022.
That's an ill diet, you don't wanna try it. And the work so cold, got my heart in a vice hold. Power of Lord's work is my heart defibrillation. Let me spell it out for you, too great for abbreviation. Struggling, no peace, can even sleep. Stress creeping in, stuck in the clay of Maya. you're still breathing. There's hope to change, rearrange a new mentality. The word of truth based in reality. Call out to God, the higher power. No Jack Bauer, making life so sweet when it is sour. Saving in the 11th hour. Life's energy was diminished. I felt like I was finished. Battery on empty. Satan trying to tempt me to get reckless with my ways. Let the truth resonate. Don't hesitate. Better things await you. Keep moving forward toward that breakthrough. Through the fire tribulation, new transformation. Be all you can be. Find strength in the Trinity. Holy Trinity holds you down. Picks me up off the ground. I was lost when I met him. I was found. Word up, word up. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. My state was incomplete. Had to bow down at his feet. Seen some dark nights out there on some cold streets. Satan never defeats me where the word and truth are complete. See, it completes me. God, Holy Son, Holy Spirit, complete. Three, completely united with the triune. Enlighten my path. Walk step by step, hand in hand with the Lord. Can't afford to go back, nothing remains. Friends committing suicide, people making bad choices. God hears the broken people's voices. We ride for the Lord, Messiah, Messiah. Riding on the eagle's wings, flying higher, higher. You'll be caught up, raptured. My heart is captured, my spirit has raptured. Used to carry a knife for protection until I met the Lord's affection. Resurrection, crossed from a place of death to new life introspection. Asking what's life's purpose made me nervous, no longer feel dead. I'm in love with the one holding the key to life everlasting. Hear it in your speakers blasting. Gonna get back what Satan stole from me. Do righteousness and hard work. Sick conditions, a condition. Facing my fears, Trinity hears my petition. Taking action on the word, promises coming to fruition. Rising up to a higher level. You can hear it in the bass, you can hear it in the treble. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery.
It's you. 이유를 묻는다면 난 대답해 우주 속에 날 바라보는 너는 shining blue. 이 깊은 외로움의 공간을 너 위에 채워줬어. 멈춰있던 시간이 흐르고 백사진 같았던 모든 게 painted with colors. 온기가 느껴져 it's true. Everything was made because of you. Everything was made because of you. 변하지 않는 건 헛된 상상이란 말은 절대 믿지 마. They will never know. 난 너가 알아준다면 My love is blaze. Blaze. 아픔을 태워버리고 널 감싸주고 싶어. My love is blaze. 내게 맡겨 널 붙잡아줄 거니까 하루 종일 너의 꿈을 꾸게 될 거야 너의 아름다움 지켜줄 거야 just for you 변하지 않는 건 어때 상상이란 말은 절대 믿지 마 They will never know 네가 날 알아준 걸로 충분해 너만을 위해 내 빛으로 세우리 도시에 영원한 사랑을 할 거야 with you forevermore you forevermore you forevermore My love is bliss bliss 아픔을 태워버리고 널 감싸주고 싶어 My love is bliss bliss 내일을 밝혀주고 널 끌어안고 싶어 My love is bliss bliss My love is bliss bliss My love is a blaze
平成もう終わり令和の時代成長下から戦う時代うまくいかないうまくやれないことが多いけど決して諦めないあれから7年の月日が経ち蒔いた種は少しずつ芽を出し今すべて捨てられざらいあなたに告げて Be alright どんなに険しい道のりでも果てない壁に阻まれても It's fly away Fly away yeah 天高く頂上目指す観難の波が押し寄せてもこんなに愛が溢れてるから立ち上がれ立ち上がれ yeah 一人じゃない It's your love
最高の祝福得る時代愛そうこれからの未来に期待世界はまだまるで瞑想未来永劫したくない戦争この時代に訪れた平和最も大きな愛をくれたメシアただ確信してずっと愛そう感謝が溢れる死の栄光
どんなに険しい道のりでも果てない壁に阻まれても It's fly away Fly away yeah 天高く頂上目指す観難の波が押し寄せてもこんなに愛が溢れてるから立ち上がれ立ち上がれ yeah 一人じゃないパーフォラ主の愛とその恵み忘れないで御言葉を行って御言葉を通し全てに勝って主の軍隊となり黄金の城へ前進する主と共に溢れる祝福をくださった惜しみなくくださった主に感謝する永遠に主のそばで生きられる夢ではない現実主を愛します最高の祝福をくださった心は天国です感謝します主と輝く歴史なそう私を使ってください愛してます
And that was Kumachang from Japan with The Greatest Blessing 2022. Before that, J-Root from PMA in Korea with Blaze. And of course, the featured artist of the day, that's MC One Love Daniel Patterson from Australia with The Journey. All right, so let's get into some news going around the world. And as always, as the brides of this history, as God listens to the prayer of the righteous, we really need to pray about all the things that are going on in the world. So I hope that as we watch the news, we can look and see the things we need to report and pray for, and then see what God is doing. And of course, with the terrible things that also go on, what are the things that we need to comfort God's heart in? Okay, so let's start off with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So we're seeing that gas prices now are soaring by 26% after Russia keeps the key pipeline closed. Gas prices have soared on concerns over energy supplies after Russia announced it would not reopen its main gas pipeline to Europe. The Dutch month-ahead wholesale gas price, a benchmark for Europe, was up as much as 30% in early trading on Monday. The Nord Stream 1 pipeline had been due to reopen on Saturday after being shut for 3 days, but Russia's state-owned energy firm Gazprom said it had found a leak. Europe has accused Russia of using gas supplies to blackmail European countries because of the Ukraine conflict, which Moscow denies. A Kremlin spokesman said on Monday, pumping problems arose because of sanctions imposed against our country and against a number of companies by Western states, including Germany and the UK. Wholesale prices have been very volatile in recent weeks. They fell sharply last week when Germany announced that its gas storage facilities were filling up faster than expected. And although the UK is not reliant on Nord Stream 1 for its gas, the Kremlin's decision to squeeze supplies to Europe has driven up the overall cost of wholesale gas. Prices in the UK rose as much as 35% on Monday. The overall increase has been behind the spike in the energy bill price cap for consumers in England, Wales, and Scotland. Tory leadership hopeful Liz Truss has promised to announce a plan to deal with high energy bills if she becomes Prime Minister. We're going to talk a little bit more about her a little bit later too. However, UK businesses are not protected by a price cap, and last week the British Chambers of Commerce warned firms would close their doors this winter if they were not given support with soaring bills. So a number of European governments have revealed plans to help businesses and consumers cope with surging energy costs. On Sunday, Germany announced a $65 billion package, which includes one-off payments to the most vulnerable and tax breaks to energy-intensive firms. Over the weekend, Sweden and Finland also announced multi-billion-pound packages to support energy companies, and Russia postpones referendum in occupied region, right? So what we see here is this is a huge thing. We heard last week on Friday that Russia just stopped gas altogether to Europe, and now all the prices are soaring up, and now kind of governments have to deal with this. And yeah, you got to think about, even though there's a war going on, there are so many other things and other people that are going to be affected by it. And now people are paying, just think about gas prices and energy prices. It's so high right now. And now all these governments are trying to deal with it. And Germany put in a $65 billion package, giving payments to the most vulnerable and tax breaks to energy intensive firms. So when you look at that, it's pretty crazy how much people are actually being affected by this. It's not just a war. All these sanctions and gas and food is going crazy. Also, in other news with Russia, there's a referendum that's supposed to happen over there in the Kherson region, right? And of course, people think it's a sham, but Russia has decided to postpone it. Right, so the Russian occupation authorities in the Ukraine's strategic southern city of Kherson have postponed a referendum on joining Russia on security grounds. And they said this is being paused because of the security situation. Right, this coming from the deputy head of the Russian-appointed administration. And the Ukrainian army has launched a long-awaited counteroffensive in the south, where Russia plans referendums in the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions. Now, a key Kherson bridge has been shelled. And speaking on Russian state TV, said the Ukrainian shelling had damaged the Antonovsky Bridge to such an extent that vehicles could no longer cross it. And he said barges transporting civilians across the Dnieper River were also coming under Ukrainian fire, as was the city's infrastructure. So the Russians have relied on the bridge to bring troops and hardware in and out of Kherson. And Ukraine has deployed U.S.-made HIMARS multiple rocket launchers in its drive to push the Russians out of the city, the first to fall to them after their February 24th invasion. So Russia has announced plans for referendums in captured territory similar to that held in Crimea after its troops seized a peninsula in 2014. Ukraine and its Western allies have denounced the referendum plans as illegal. So that's kind of what's happening over there. They are going to postpone it because of all the fighting that's going on over there. So let's see what happens there. Okay, so let's go over the UK, and this is we're going to talk about Liz Truss, who we just talked about right now. She is now the new UK Prime Minister. Liz Truss now, as a new prime minister, vows to deal with the energy crisis. So she's promised to take action to deal with surging energy costs after winning the Tory leadership contest to become the next PM. In a poll of party members, the foreign secretary defeated rival Rishi Sunak with 50% of the votes to his 43%, a narrower margin than expected. She will succeed Boris Johnson on Tuesday after being formally appointed by the Queen. The 47-year-old will become the UK's third woman prime minister. And in her victory speech, she promised to deliver on the party's 2019 election promises and defeat Labour at a general election in 2024. Now, she promised to govern as a conservative by delivering a bold plan to cut taxes and grow the economy. And she said she will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply. So her team is understood to have been working on a support package for weeks, with an announcement penciled in for Thursday. And industry sources expect the incoming government to back freezing bills, a move which would cost billions, right? So the move would not necessarily require upfront funding. However, with reports, the government could cover loans to companies repaid by consumers over time in the form of higher fixed prices. So interestingly, that's something, especially for UK, one of the biggest economies in the world, we do need to pray for the leadership to do well. Okay. Last but not least, let's go over to China as a deadly earthquake rocks Sichuan city in lockdown. At least 21 people have been killed after a 6.6 magnitude earthquake hit southwestern China, state media said. The quake struck at around 1 p.m. local time in Sichuan province at a depth of 10 kilometers. The impact severed telecommunications lines and triggered mountain landslides that caused serious damage, local media reports say. Some 21 million people in Sichuan's capital, Chengdu, were earlier ordered to stay home because of COVID rules. The epicenter of the quake was at Luding, a town in a remote mountain region located about 226 kilometers southwest of Chengdu, according to the China Earthquake Network Center. Tremors shook buildings in Chengdu and the neighboring megacity of Chongqing, leaving roads blocked and cutting telecommunication lines in areas home to more than 10,000 residents, according to broadcaster CCTV. The shocks also forced some power stations to shut down in the areas of Garzi and Yan, the Chinese broadcaster said, and more than 500 rescue personnel have been dispatched to the epicenter while workers labored to clear roadblocks caused by landslides, according to state broadcaster CGTN. Chengdu residents reported seeing people running out of their high-rise apartments in a panic after receiving earthquake alerts on their phones. Chengdu is the latest city to be locked down by Chinese authorities on Friday in an attempt to stem the rise in COVID cases. And this latest disaster comes months after a 6.1 magnitude earthquake tore through Sichuan in June. Sichuan is an earthquake-prone area as it lies along the eastern boundary of the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau. And the latest disaster also called into memory an 8.0 magnitude earthquake, which we all know that hit Wenchuan County in northwest Sichuan in 2008. And we know what happened at that time. That's when Sun Tzu was taken over there in prison, right? And it killed 70,000 people and caused widespread destruction. All right, so there it is, guys. That is the top 3 news around the world. Let's get into some sporting news. We'll start off with something cool. Ice hockey. Women's World Hockey Championships in Denmark. The final game was between Canada and the U.S., and Canada comes out with the gold medal, winning 2-1 for a second consecutive win in the Worlds. Brianne Jenner scoring both goals. In soccer, EPL news, big upset is Manchester United defeating Arsenal. Arsenal was undefeated, but Man U breaks it. They win 3-1, and they break the unbeaten streak of Arsenal. Liverpool ties with Everton 0-0. Chelsea defeats West Ham 2-1, and Tottenham defeats Fulham 2-1, and Manchester City ties Aston Villa 1-1. In Major League Baseball, 2 big stories going on right now. The first one is tracking New York Yankees star Aaron Judge, who's chasing 60-plus home runs. So baseball history could be on the horizon as Aaron Judge approaches the elite mark of 60 home runs. The New York Yankees outfielder came one step closer with his 53rd homer on Sunday at the Tampa Bay Rays. The Yankees outfielder has had an outstanding season at the plate, batting .299 and 115 RBIs. He is one of the reasons New York is among MLB's elite entering the stretch run. The second big news is also about home runs. It's Albert Pujols in his final season, just trying to get the 700 home runs. So Pujols is now only 5 home runs away from becoming just the 4th member of the 700 home run club, joining Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, and it's been something of a late career renaissance for Pujols. So he came back to the St. Louis Cardinals for what he says is his final season and has sparked his best offensive year in over a decade. He's hitting .272, and he has slugged 16 home runs in a mere 84 games. And if he decided to play for one more season, there's a good chance he'd even be able to pass Ruth for 3rd on the all-time homer list. So he just hit his 695th home run on Sunday night against the Chicago Cubs, and he launched a pitch. And man, it was out of there. Now he's only 1 home run away from tying Alex Rodriguez. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the top 3 news in sports and in world news. So what does that mean? It is the golden time. And yes, it is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope you guys are looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So what are we going to praise today? We're going to start off with I Have Only God. That's the latest song that just came out on the Provi Music YouTube channel. After that, we have Go Higher and Higher, and we'll end things off with Tremendous Grace. All right, so as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Forsaking me, you are my help. Mighty God, I am yours to love evermore. Mighty God, I am yours, your bride for all time. From all the world you've chosen me, and now I have firmly set my mind. I will certainly live according to your will. Mighty God, I am yours to love evermore. Mighty God, I am yours, your bride for all time. From all the world you've chosen me, and now I have firmly set my mind. So I certainly will fulfill your will, my God. You're my Jehovah God, who has led me this far. Please lead me all the way. I'm calling on you, Lord, and living by only your word. giving me strength and hope. Have nothing to fear, because I only look to my God. With all your authority and your power, you constantly help me. With all your authority and your power, you keep me from harm. With all your authority and your power, you constantly help me. With all your authority and your power, you keep me from harm. You are with me all the time, always giving me strength and hope. Have nothing to fear, because I only look to my God. Have nothing to fear, because I only look to my God. Have nothing to fear, because I only look to my God.
Look at you. You are dazzling, led by the Holy Spirit. You are changing in the best way. Look at me. I'm dazzling, led by the word of truth. I know my destiny is changing. Go higher and higher while throwing out my thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. We are transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming, awesomely, go higher. Na 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 na.
Yeah. Look at you, look at me. Everyone is shining, dazzling. Walls that block you and me. With the Lord, we'll break right through them. When we can do no more, the secret is doing more. There are no limits here, we're not with no limit. Don't stop, it just keep going. You changed a lot, so gotta keep growing. Started from the bottom, now we're going to the highest. The Lord, He takes me to the Trinity.
Rise up on the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise up on the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise up on the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise up on the rest, go high. Transforming, awesomely, go high. Go higher and higher while throwing out the thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. We have transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming, awesomely, go high. We have transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming, awesomely, go high. Rise above the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise above the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise above the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise above the rest, go high. Transforming, awesomely, go higher.
that there's no greater grace in this whole world. We sincerely offer thanks and we pour out this art of love to the Lord who gives tremendous grace. To the Lord who gives tremendous grace.
And that was Tremendous Grace, another one of those amazing songs from Pastor Joan. Before that, Go Higher and Higher, and I Have Only God. All right, so let's get into today's word study now that our hearts are made ready from today's praise and worship. And today, like always on Tuesdays, we have switched to practical word studies, and the Bible stories will be on Wednesdays instead, all right? So this week's message is a little bit more difficult because every head leader has probably come up with a different type or different focus on the message. So I can only really focus on what I heard from the leader that I was listening to. So I hope it's something that I think, of course, the key points are going to be the same, but it's going to be a little bit different from person to person, okay? So there are a couple of things that I looked at and the message itself, and I said, there are some practical things that we can really work on here, right? And what are the things that we can do? So the big thing right now, of course, is prayer. And there was these I would say there's these a couple of points, and of course, doing things until the end is a big one, right? God, doing things until the end is kind of the big point, right? Like no matter how much Sunseam is going through these difficult things, we're being persecuted or we're going through these difficulties because of him, right? Not saying that's his fault, but because he's persecuted, we're going to be persecuted too. So there's a couple of points that I looked at. It's what could be very practical from this message of doing things until the end, right? Because it's going to be different from person to person, and everyone's situation and circumstance is different too. So here's the first one. A couple of points that I saw from the message that I really liked. First one was do things. Obviously, God will do his will until the end, so we need to pray even more. So God will do things until the end no matter what, and it's all about us. And one of the big points that I really like that was very practical is don't lose control and say things that you will regret. Okay? And during soccer, yes, there's probably some times it gets emotional and we'll do or say things that we do regret. And this is the interesting thing is because even with that, when I was looking at soccer, yeah, even those are things that you can do until the end. Like losing control means you couldn't hold on until the end. And then all of a sudden you say or do something that you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, that's so embarrassing kind of thing, right? And I do think it's something where we have to understand to ourselves, doing things until the end basically means not to let go, right? It's difficult because there are so many times you just want to quit or you want to stop. And especially when it comes to a lot of people who are struggling in their faith, yeah, a lot of people are thinking about, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Oh, why is it so difficult? Oh, why is it like, oh, why is it like, and everyone's getting so they feel like they just want to quit because it's been going on for too long. And I do believe this is the time where you kind of really get tested. Tested in this, can you do things until the end? I think this is the really, really big test. Now, what does that mean? It means that when things are okay or not too bad, you're not tested on doing things until the end. You have to realize right now, in this time, this is the biggest test because it's that much more difficult. To say that we are doing things until the end when things are not going too bad and they're okay is not really a true mark or measure of doing things until the end, right? It's really in this time right now that we have to kind of sit back, pray, and think about, man, have I done things? Am I doing it till the end? This is a difficult time. I know it's hard. I know it's not something that we can all say that, that was so easy. It's not. And this is why we really have to get ourselves into that mentality and that mindset, right? Yes, we want to quit or stop, but this is the time that we will really, really be able to test the metal, right? Test to see, is this true gold, right? And we're going through the fire right now, and we really need to stop and think about ourselves, understanding that how it is hard, and this is where it kind of comes down to, are you really going to do things until the end, right? Don't lose it. Don't let go, right? Don't say things you'll regret, but let's do it until the end. use our time wisely, schedule our time. And that's the second point I wanted to make is now that we want to do things until the end, sometimes we burn too fast and we go into burnout, right? Where we have to kind of slow things down, which means we do have to use our time wisely. And that's the second point I wanted to make is doing things until the end doesn't mean going at 100,000%, like not sleeping, not eating, just going, for like 20 days straight. No, because you're gonna end up burning out. The second thing I thought to myself is, you want to do things until the end. You want to do it until the end, but you can't burn out, right? You can't lose yourself, like lose all that energy. And in soccer, it was the same thing. We were like dying because we were playing 6 games in 2 days, 4 on the first day. We were exhausted. Muscles are just tired, right? And this is when we're thinking to ourselves, you can't just run wildly out there trying to play soccer. You have to go out there, right? And use your energy wisely, right? Take the bursts of energy when you need it, lay back when you need to kind of rest yourself a little bit more. And in the same way, it's about something I talk about in the past is scheduling your time. Really, really needing to schedule your time well. Make sure you get the things you need to get done in a timely manner, but you don't have to rush it. Yes, some things have a timeline and you got to get it done right away. And of course, those things we understand. But a lot of times we procrastinate. A lot of times we leave things until the end and we end up doing a poor job or we end up not being able to finish. And this is why our time must be used wisely so we don't get burned down. So, there's a lot of times, even for myself, you leave things until the end. And then what happens? You leave it until the end and then you just burn the midnight oil for 3 days trying to get something done. And then you're done. You're like, I got to rest. I don't want to do this anymore, right? And that's something that we have to understand also at that level, right? First thing was, remember, don't lose your control. Hold on, right? Don't let go. Whether it's your faith, whether it's you with your difficulties with people that you love, just being able to talk to them instead of letting it go, right? One of the things I can't get still is when people start to ghost. Ghosting is like totally a Generation Z or Y, whatever it is, right? Or millennials too. And if they have a problem, they just kind of leave and they just don't say anything. It's one of the worst habits because it's just basically a break in communication, and it's just kind of it's just kind of a sign of maturity for that person if you just ghost. It's one of the worst things. Like it's so immature, right? But on the other hand too is if people are very, very sensitive, sometimes we just don't want to deal with these things too, but we can't let go, right? Don't lose control and just you gotta fix those things you need to fix right away. The third thing, and I think this is the final point that I want to make, is a practical thing that I got from the message is understanding that everything is in God's hands. And it's kind of that one thing is where it's like, even if there's just a 1% chance, if you do it with God, you can win. Like you can get it, right? Everything is in God's hands, so you have to be those that really believe that it's possible, right? Our faith needs to reach the next level, that no matter how difficult, because I'm telling you guys, during soccer, playing against the former faith team, it's like we can't lose to them. We can't. And once they scored to tie it up, I'm like, oh my gosh. Once they started like pressing and shooting, it was crazy. And in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, please don't go in, right? But you need to keep the faith, just that 1% there, because with that 1%, God can allow you to win. And this is kind of one of those things where you need it inside your mind, right? One of these practical things where you have to realize inside your heart and your mind, these things are absolutely possible, right? You have to have that mentality in your mindset. Doesn't mean something meaning it's possible doesn't mean you'd stop doing your responsibility. What it really means is we have to become those that believe that God is with us at all times, right? He is really, really with us at all times, that it's still possible to win no matter what. What does that mean, right? Basically, during the soccer games, like from the semifinals to the finals, we prayed in the beginning. We prayed again. We prayed before it started. And then we prayed with the Houston team together. And then we had our own prayer. We had a pastor come in to pray for us. And then at halftime, we prayed again. Right? We were taking every moment, like, God, please. Like in the final game, when the penalty kick was being taken, praying to God, like, God, help me. And there's a goalkeeper at the very other end just praying, please, God, score that goal. Please, God. Like everyone was praying and everyone was asking God for a miracle. right? And that was the 1% playing against someone who has a pro player and all these amazing young players too. It was basically the David and Goliath, right? And think about David. David had absolute confidence, right? He had so much confidence in what he was doing. And we have to understand too, we're like, oh, it's so true that with God, things are possible if we do it until the end, like this week's message, right? And if I were to put in one extra point, I would say, well, that practicality for doing it, for doing it together with, knowing that God is going to be there with us, having that 1% chance of success, it basically means we got to take all of our situations and do it with God. Like pray before you start work, pray before you leave the house, talk to God on the train, in your car, right? And say, God, I'm going to have this day. And you want to just bring them together with you in your everyday life. I think that last point I think it's going to be an important point that I remembered was you have to make everything clean, right? And then once you win being clean, that is the greatest victory. You have to win making it absolutely clean, and then that is the greatest victory, right? So victory cannot be achieved with sin, right? You can't have a great victory when we have sin, and this is why we really need to repent and make sure that we can have a great victory every day, which means getting rid of the sin in our hearts and our life, right? So what were the points? Since God will do things with you until the end, don't lose control. He'll be with us until the end. So don't say or do things you're going to regret, right? People quit when it's difficult, and right now we're in the most difficult time. Second thing was don't burn out. Don't just say that I have to do things until the end. Doesn't mean you have to do it at like 5,000%. Use your time wisely and schedule your time. Make sure you get the things you need to get done in a timely manner. Third thing was knowing that everything is in God's hands, and that 1% faith, that if God is with you, you can do it, right? Do it together all the time. Pray here, pray there, pray after work, pray before you get on the bus, pray in the bus, in the train, pray while you're driving, right? And last but not least, to have the greatest victory, we have to make sure we're clean. So make sure we repent, right? So those are some of the things that I got from this week's message as a practical thing that we can do each and every day. And I hope it's something that we can remind ourselves too with, all right? So there it is, guys. That is the word study for today. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed it more than anything else. That is bring us into this Japanese Tuesday, and I did get a request from Meg over there on YouTube, and she suggested a couple songs, and I really like this one. I was listening to all three songs. I like this one. It's called "Tomorrow Will Be a Good Day," and this is from Yu Takahashi, right? So this is recommended by a Japanese member. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. This is Yu Takahashi with "Tomorrow Will Be a Good Day."
明日はきっといいになるいいになるいいになるでしょうくたびれた顔で電車の中揺られてる人を見た雪降りしぼって席を譲ってみた大丈夫ですと怪げそうに断られたその後決まり悪そうに一人分空いたまんまのシートまあいっかと割り切れなければとっておきの笑い話にしようそうさ明日はきっといいになるいいになるいいになるのさ笑い合えたらいいになるいいになるいいになるでしょう悲しみはいつも突然
君を彩る絵の具になる絵の具になるでしょう思い通りの人生じゃないとしてもそれも幸せと選ぶことはできるまあいっかと割り切れなければとっておきの笑い話にしよう明日はきっといいになるいいになるいいになるのさ笑い合えたらいいになるいいになるいいになるのさ今日よりずっといいになるいいになるいいにするのさ君が笑えばいい
And there was Yu Takahashi from Japan with Tomorrow Will Be a Good Day. Thank you so much, Meg, for recommending this song. I'm really appreciate to hear all these really cool kind of rock style songs. I really like rock music too, so thank you so much for that. All right, so let's get into the final segment for today, and I'm not going to do a very long one, but it's going to be something where it's going to make everyone think more deeply about today's topic of brainwashing for Provi in the media. Now, last week we did talk about different types of techniques. What is brainwashing? And today I'm going to talk about a different subject. I'm going to read an article for you from an actual professor who kind of gives this probing question: is does brainwashing actually exist? Okay, so this is a professor of sociology and religious studies at Penn State. So this is one of his articles that he wrote, and it's very interesting because a lot of people, when we look at like, hey, did you get brainwashed? And we always think about cults and churches and all these different other different things that are different religious things, and people get this automatic negative tone. Right? And I do think it's very good for us to really study these things, because if the media is accusing us of brainwashing people, then it's actually saying that you are brainwashed, right? And it kind of looks like, wait a second, you're isolating? Oh my gosh, we sing chants and praise. Oh, we do that too. Oh my gosh. And like we love bomb newcomers. Oh my God. Like all these things out there were like, hey, wait a second. Doesn't that sound like what we're doing? But what I want you to understand is there's always different sides to everything. And one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to brainwashing is we actually think that's like a thing in psychology and sociology, and it's 100%. And the answer is, it is absolutely not. It's not 100% that this actually exists, right? So I'm going to show you something very interesting. I'm going to read this article for you. This was written in 2009. Right, by a professor of sociology and religious studies at Penn State University. Really good. I think it's an Ivy League, right? And his name is Roger Finke. So you guys can take a look at this, okay? So let's get into this article. The probing question is, does brainwashing exist? And I want you to listen to this and understand it very well, okay? So let's listen to this article from Penn State. If you turn on the talk radio or check the headlines, and you're sure to hear the accusation, somewhere a group of people has been brainwashed into abandoning their own values and beliefs and supporting a political party, a religion, or a leader. Of course, political parties like Trump, right? Brainwashed. But does brainwashing really exist? Not in the way that the mainstream media portrays it, says Roger Finke, professor of sociology and religious studies at Penn State. The popular idea is that brainwashing techniques can completely alter a person's opinions while he or she is powerless to stop the conversion, he says. But such techniques have never actually been found to exist. Finke argues that the term is a historical inaccuracy that has become entrenched in social lore. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the earliest English use of the word brainwashing dates from 1950, so it's very new. It entered the language from the Chinese words "shi nao," meaning wash brain, a term used to describe the coercive methods of the Maoist regime. However, Finke notes that the popular portrayal of brainwashing became widespread in the US during the 1970s, a time in which a number of cults and religious movements like the Unification Church were on the rise. So critics of these movements could not understand why anyone would join, right? This is what Finke said. How could they, how can you understand anyone joining these cults? So they argue that the leaders were using almost magical brainwashing techniques to recruit members. Now, the Jonestown cult mass suicide in 1978, in which 909 members drank cyanide-laced flavored drink mix, served to further popularize the idea. From this catastrophe, the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" was coined, meaning someone who is blindly following the beliefs of a charismatic leader because of successful brainwashing. So when these movements were studied systematically by social scientists, however, it was found that they had no powers of brainwashing, says Finke. Propaganda and other methods of persuasion were used to make the movement look as attractive as possible to prospective members, but in the end, the vast majority of people that explored these movements never joined. It was really only a very tiny percentage that joined, notes Finke. So what drove those who did join? The testimonials of friends and family, he says, when a close friend or family member tells you that a leader or belief has changed them into a new and better person, it's the most effective, quote-unquote, brainwashing that you can receive, he adds. Finke emphasizes that the power of friends and family to influence us plays a role not only in religious conversion, but political and social conversion as well. Propaganda and information control may get your attention and encourage change, but for true long-lasting conversion on matters of importance, these persuasive techniques must be supplemented by support from someone you trust. Okay, so here's the first one from Penn State, Ivy League University, right? So it's like, oh, this is quite interesting. So there is like this people that are kind of not really sure if it really exists or not because none of it has been proven yet, right? So let me move to another article. This one's a very, very interesting one too, all right? So let's move into the next article. This article is really, really interesting because it comes from the brother of two sisters that joined the Jonestown cult that, we just talked about before. They drank Kool-Aid with like cyanide and like people died knowing that they're drinking poison, okay? So this is a very interesting thing, and guess what his title is? The Brainwashing Myth, right? And this was published in 2018. So listen to this one here, and you're going to see some other, research that's done here also. So let's listen to this one, and this is coming from, it was published July 18th, 2018. Okay, so here it is. It says, more than 40 years ago, my two sisters, Carolyn Layton and Annie Moore, were among those who planned the mass deaths in Jonestown on November 18, 1978. Part of a movement called People's Temple, which was led by a charismatic pastor named Jim Jones. They had moved with 1,000 other Americans to the South American nation of Guyana in order to create a communal utopia. Under pressure from concerned relatives and the media, however, they implemented a plan of group murder and suicide. Jonestown is remembered in the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" because more than 900 people died after drinking poison-laced punch. My two sisters and nephew were among those who died. So this is someone who's affected by this. In the wake of this tragedy, you might think that I would be amenable to the idea that they had been brainwashed. It would absolve their heinous actions and offer an easy explanation for their behavior. And many argue that people who join cults or new religious movements, so not just cults, new religious movements, the term scholars prefer because they've been brainwashed. The thinking goes that they've undergone some sort of programming that allows others to manipulate them against their will. How else can you explain why people become immersed in fringe groups that seem so alien to their previous, more socially acceptable lives? How else to account for the fact that, in some cases, they'll even commit crimes? But like the word cult, the term brainwashing seems to only be applied to groups we disapprove of. We don't say that soldiers are brainwashed to kill other people. That's basic training. We don't say that fraternity members are brainwashed to haze their members. That's peer pressure. As a scholar of religious studies, I'm disheartened by how casually the word brainwashing gets thrown around, whether it's used to describe a politician's supporters or individuals who are devoutly religious. I reject the idea of brainwashing for 3 reasons. Number 1 is it is pseudoscientific, meaning it ignores research-based explanations for human behavior and dehumanizes people by denying their free will. So let's start off with the first one. There's no scientific grounding. Brainwashing is used so frequently to describe religious conversions that it has a certain panache to it, as if it were based in scientific theory. But brainwashing presents what scientists call an untestable hypothesis. So in order for a theory to be considered scientifically credible, it must be falsifiable. That is, it must be able to be proven incorrect. For example, as soon as things fall up instead of down, we will know that the theory of gravity is false. So since we can't even prove that brainwashing does not exist, it fails to meet the standard criteria of the scientific method. In addition, there seems to be no way to have a conversation about brainwashing. You either accept it or you don't. You can't argue with someone who says, "I was brainwashed." But real science seeks argument and disagreement as scholars challenge their colleagues' theories and presuppositions. Finally, if brainwashing really existed, more people would join and stay in these cults or groups or political groups. But studies have shown that members of new religions generally leave the group within a few years of joining. Even advocates of brainwashing theories are abandoning the term in the face of such criticism, using more scientific sounding expressions such as thought reform and coercive persuasion. So the next thing we're going to look at is conversion, conditioning, and coercion. So once we move beyond brainwashing as an explanation for people's behaviors, we can actually learn quite a bit about why individuals are drawn to new ideas and alternative religions or make choices at odds with their previous lifestyles. So there are at least 3 scientific, neutral, and precise terms that can replace brainwashing. The first is conversion, which describes an individual's striking change in attitude, emotion, or viewpoint. It's typically used in the context of religious transformation, but it can describe other radical changes, from voting for the wrong candidate to joining Earth First. It can be sudden and dramatic, as in the case of St. Paul. Right? We're talking about Apostle Paul, who had been persecuting the early church but then stopped after supposedly hearing a voice from heaven. Or it can be a slow and gradual process similar to the way that Gandhi came to understand his role and mission as a leader for Indian independence. We usually think of conversion as a voluntary process, but when we look at accounts of well-respected converts, St. Augustine comes to mind, right? The father of modern-day Christianity. We find exactly what the philosopher William James said we would. Converts begin by being passive recipients of a transcendent, life-changing event. They don't plan for it, it just happens. But they can't go back to the way things were before their experience. Next, there's conditioning, which refers to the psychological process of learning to behave in a certain way in response to certain stimuli. So as we grow up and experience life, we become conditioned by parents, teachers, friends, and society to think and feel in certain predictable ways. We get rewarded for some things we do and punished for others. This influences how we behave. There is nothing evil or nefarious about this process. It's something that happens normally and naturally. Studies have shown that many of the people who seek out new religions may be predisposed or conditioned to finding a group that fosters their worldview. But what about the nice people who, in rare cases, end up doing terrible things after joining a new religious movement? Again, the process of conditioning seems to offer some explanation. For example, peer pressure has the powerful ability to condition people to conform to specific roles they are assigned. In the Stanford prison experiment, participants were randomly assigned the role of guard and prisoner, with the guards soon becoming abusive and the inmates becoming passive. Meanwhile, deference to authority, which Stanley Milgram studied in his famous 1961 experiment, may encourage people to do what they know is wrong. In the case of Milgram's experiment, participants applied what they believed were electric shocks to individuals, even as they heard simulated screams of pain. And finally, coercion can also help explain why people may act against their own values, even committing crimes on occasion. If someone is told to do something and threatened with physical, emotional, or spiritual harm, if they don't, it's coercion. Just because someone carries out an order, it doesn't mean they agree with it. Prisoners of war may publicly denounce their home country or claim allegiance to the enemy just to survive. When they're released from captivity, however, they revert back to their true beliefs. Or in other words, coercion or exhaustion or hunger can make people do things they might not otherwise do. We don't need a theory of thought reform to understand the power of fear, right? People do it because they're tired. People do it because they're scared, or they're going to, they're going to get physically harmed. Last, we're going to talk about a denial of agency. So true believers certainly exist. And this person says, my sisters fall into that category. They sincerely promoted the cause of the People's Temple, no matter how misguided it was under the leadership of Jim Jones, because of their deep commitment to its ideals. This commitment arose from their conversion experiences and their gradual conditioned acceptance of ethical misbehavior. I do not consider them brainwashed, however. They made decisions and choices more or less freely. They knew what they were doing. The same is true for members of the Branch Davidians. They accepted and believed the Word of God as interpreted by David Koresh. If brainwashing actually existed, we would expect to see more dangerous people running around, planning to carry out reprehensible schemes. Instead, we find that people frequently abandon their beliefs as soon as they leave coercive environments. This fact does not address the difficulty of leaving certain groups, whether they're political parties, religious movements, social clubs, or even business organizations. Nevertheless, people can leave these groups and abandon their beliefs, and they do. Should we consider situational hurdles and peer pressure forms of brainwashing? If that were the case, then everything and nothing would constitute mind control. We have studies that illuminate processes of conversion and conditioning. We have historical examples that demonstrate what people do under compulsion. The brainwashing explanation ignores this social scientific research. It infantilizes individuals by denying them personal agency and suggesting that they are not responsible for their own actions. The courts do not buy brainwashing, so why should we? Right? So it's very interesting that in the courts, if you go to America or these Western countries, brainwashing is not something that they accept. Just because you can't say that I didn't do it because I was brainwashed. No, you didn't, right? And there's no, and the courts won't accept brainwashing. In Korea, I'm not sure, but in Western countries, they're not going to accept it. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's section on providence in the media, and this is our second section on brainwashing. I hope you guys really enjoyed these articles, and it kind of makes you think that it's not even a real term, and even courts don't accept it in the Western world, right? It's not an excuse to do what you did. Either way, okay? So there it is, guys. I hope it kind of opens your minds to what brainwashing is and how we can understand it at a higher level. And knowing that even when like journalists will say brainwashing, they do it to sensationalize when it's not even a real scientific term that can't even be proven. Okay, so you guys can listen to this again. I think it's very, very good for you to look at some of these articles too. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is Provi in the media. Hope you guys enjoyed that and it opened your mind to new ways of thinking when people come talking about brainwashing to kind of bring in this triggering word. All right, so there it is. That is the last section for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this more than anything else, which means that is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys have an amazing and awesome day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. realign. Just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone.